is the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. With a lot of hockey and baseball to a little BS. It's the BS Sports Show with Brendan Azoff and Stefan Rosner on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the BS Sports Show. I am Brendan Azoff. Joining me in just a moment is Stefan Rosner, and we have a jam-packed show for you guys today. Joining us at 6:30 is NYI Hockey Now editor Christian Arnold. He's been on this show once before. Great guest, really knows his Islanders hockey, and we will discuss the chances for the Islanders at extending the series against the Tampa Bay Lightning. We also have a lot of hot takes, both in baseball and hockey, a lot of exciting news and information to get out. But first, we just got some merch in from our store, BS Sports Shop, and wanted to give you guys a little sneak peek. You got the beer dye shirt, Chuck and Nux, Toss and Die, and you got our logo on front. It doesn't just come in this color, it comes in all types of colors, and if you guys want to go check it out, the link's in our Facebook page and Twitter pages, so everyone go check that out. Stefan, how you doing, buddy?
I feel like I got punched in the face by John Scott. It's a tough day. Allergies are killing me, but again, the show must go on.
Power through. So we got some NHL headlines to kick things off with. I'll let you get started with Jeff Ward, who loses his interim tag with the Calgary Flames.
Yeah, so he took over for Bill Peters after he resigned following the whole racial slurs and abusing players behind the bench, and they played quite well with him. 24-15-3. They knock off the Jets 4-1 in the qualifying series. So 3-1, in the qualifying series, and they lose to Dallas, but as Dallas has been playing, it makes sense. This is the year for Dallas. It seems like it's going to be, they're in the cup right now. We'll see who joins them. We'll see if Tampa joins tonight, but great with him. You know, Calgary's had 4 coaches in the past 5 seasons. That's not a good stat to have for a hockey club. And he has won a cup before. He won a cup with the Boston Bruins, an assistant coach in 2011. So this should be a good fit. It is a 2-year deal. Not sure how much, but definitely a good fit for him in Calgary. And hopefully they can build on this year to next season.
Definitely. And I think for Calgary, it's been a revolving door of coaches so far. Like you said, they've had multiple over the last 5 years. And for more years than that, they've had even more coaches. And it just seems like nobody could be that fit. So I understand why, after coming in, they had a good record with him. Why not give him a chance to solidify as a head coach there? He already has a relationship with the players. And I like the move of not going outside and bringing out an outside hire who has to take time to develop a relationship with the organization. But moving on to the more prevalent information, Nathan MacKinnon wins the Lady Byng Trophy. Obviously, he's going to win a lot of awards come the NHL award season right now with how good he was for the Colorado Avalanche this year. 93 total points, 35 goals and 58 assists, and only 12 penalty minutes on the season. And this is a guy that's out on the ice all the time. So that makes that stat even more impressive.
Well, you look at it is that if there's an injury or something, you know, you need your best player to be on the rink in the biggest moments. And if you have a top player who's taken significant amount of penalties, well, guess what? It's not really helping your team in the long run. You look at a guy like McKinnon, he takes no penalties. He's always out there. And that's why he's so dominant, because first off, besides playing out there and playing up minutes and scoring and getting assists, it's called trust. In a big moment, in a big game, let's say a tie game, you're in overtime, you could throw this player out there and go, you know what? He's responsible with the puck. He's not going to take a penalty to hurt the team. And that's a huge thing to have on a hockey club, especially for Colorado.
Yeah, and like you said, if your top players aren't on the ice when you need them most, it's going to become a problem. And a lot of players in the league that are top-notch players, they get frustrated some games and they take stupid penalties, and MacKinnon doesn't do that. He was the second lowest among the top 25 scorers in the NHL, which is pretty incredible. And just overall, I mean, it was a phenomenal year for Nathan MacKinnon. Every time he touched the puck, it seemed like he was creating offense. I think there was a 40-point gap between him and the second leading scorer on the Colorado Avalanche. So clearly he was the best player on that team, and it's why he's up for the Hart Trophy as well. So we might see his name called again later this week.
Yeah, outstanding player. I know NHL Network was talking. If you could start a franchise, and we'll get to this hot take later, but they said if you could start a franchise with one player, who would you pick? And more than a few of them said it would be Nathan MacKinnon. I mean, he's got it all. He's got the speed. But not even the speed. It's the speed with the puck on his stick and the quick shot, dominant. Lady Byng, well-deserving, and he looks to help Colorado rebound from a tough loss this year. This is a team that we thought was going to go to the Cup, and he did his part. It wasn't like he slacked off in the big moments. He did everything he could, just wasn't enough this year.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, I'm going to let you talk about the next topic with Lou Lamoriello winning GM of the year, but I think for Nathan MacKinnon, this is an especially tough one to lose because of all the time off. They were rolling, right? And you kind of want to go in when you're rolling like that. They take the time off. They look great in the round robin play, look great in the first round against Arizona, and then injuries strike. And it's frustrating because that's out of your control. But at the same time, the expectation was we're going to win the cup this year. They have the roster to do it. And now every time you go a year longer, now you have RFAs, UFAs that have to get re-signed. Pieces might not be coming back. And I felt like this team all around from top to bottom was one of 2 or 3 in the league that really looked like they were poised to win a cup, and another disappointing year for them. I
mean, it's tough. You lose Grubauer, your number 1 goaltender. You lose a veteran defenseman in Eric Johnson. But again, teams have to battle injuries. We'll get to Lou Lamoriello. His Islander team went 35-23-10. They were 5th in the division. They weren't a playoff team when the play stopped. And you look back and go, okay, Pellet goes down. Johnny Boychuk gets a skate cut under his eye. Cal Clutterbuck takes a skate cut to the wrist where, that was a scary situation. Zizeki's skate cut. And they weren't the team that, that's expected. You want to see them take strides each year. This regular season wasn't really a stride at all. But again, they lost pieces. But the thing that Lou Lamoriello did, which was great, is he went on and made moves. He got Andy Green, who's played well in this playoff, a veteran, 37-year-old defenseman. But he plays top-line minutes. That's what he's been playing his whole career with the Devils. Great move. They get Pajot from the Senators. They give up a lot for him. He comes, and the regular season, they ended the stretch 7 games in a row losing. He hadn't won a game with the Islanders yet, and he comes into the playoff very, very well, still playing well. He does a lot of things now. With Casey Zizeki's hurt, he's playing on the 4th line, and he has been a perfect fit. Obviously, Zizeki's brings what he brings, but Pajot has been a great fit, and he's got signed to a 6-year deal. But also, he signs Anders Lee and Jordan Eberle, and I know Eberle's taking a lot of slack right now, but he's racking up the points. He's just not coming through in the big moments they need him to, but he is racking up the points and trying to help as best he can. But Anders Lee gets a 7-year deal. Eberle gets a 5-year deal. They signed Varlamov to a 4-year deal. He's been great. He's going to be really helpful when Sorokin comes over and starts playing. And Brassard, they signed him to a 1-year deal to replace Valtteri Filppula. And yeah, he was scratched at the beginning of the Flyer series, but he came in and he's played quite well. So all these moves they've made have really helped them right now in the playoffs. And that's when these moves have to matter.
Exactly. And Lou Lamoriello came here with one goal in mind, and it was to bring this team to a cup, and came over with Barry Trotz there. And it's just a great fit between the two of them. You got 2 geniuses, one from the front office, one from behind the bench perspective, and they bounce ideas off each other. And like you said, Pajot right now is playing on the 4th line the last couple of games, and somebody might hear that and say, wow, you gave up that much for a 4th liner. But the Islanders are one of the few teams that they interchange lines. They play the same amount of minutes. It's not like their 4th line is getting benched in big moments. They're out there. So it's a different type of 4th line, and he's been very, very valuable. And we saw this in his time with Ottawa too, how good he can be when it comes to playoff time. I remember as a Rangers fan watching him absolutely shell Lundqvist in that 4-goal game and demoralizing everybody that roots for New York. But it was definitely fun to watch him then, still fun to watch him now. And the Islanders, in order to avoid being eliminated, are going to need him to step up in this game big time.
And it's not the first time Lamoriello has done a phenomenal job as a general manager. He was the Devils when they won the Cups. He goes to Toronto and helps them figure their stuff out. And then he comes to an Islanders team that was really, what are they going to do? Tavares hadn't, quote-unquote, left yet. They were hoping Lamoriello and Trotz would get him to stay. He leaves, but on the fly, he figures it out, gets the pieces around Barzal. They make the playoffs. Each year has been an improvement under him. And, they're a few games away from coming back in this series and making the Stanley Cup final. And if it doesn't tonight, which I hope not, but again, Tampa is we got to be realistic. Tampa is the better team. The Islanders are underdogs. Islanders are down 3-1. Very few teams have ever come back. And it's going to be a tough battle. Can the Islanders do it? Yeah, any team can do it. But, in all likelihood, we know how good Tampa is, and I'm pretty sure it's their time, them or Dallas, because both teams have been talks of, all right, when are they going to win a cup? It's their time. But, we've seen growth from this team, and Lamoriello's moves have paid off, which is why he wins the GM of the year.
Yeah, and moving on now, we'll go to Joel Edmondson, and one of the more intriguing offseason moves I think I've seen in a while, because this was a defenseman who I personally think, outside of Alex Pietrangelo, might be the most interesting one on the UFA market. And Montreal goes and sends a 5th-round pick to Carolina, for a player that's going to be a free agent in less than a month. And obviously you want to have the exclusive negotiation rights, but I don't know necessarily if he signs there. And if he doesn't, you just lost a 5th-round pick for a player you could have negotiated with in the long haul. And we've seen in the NHL, it's one of the few sports where it doesn't matter what round you're being selected in. There's gems in every single round. And Joel Edmondson brings a lot to the table defensively. He's not going to light up a score sheet, but he will be that stay-at-home guy that a lot of teams need. I know from a Rangers perspective, I wrote an article for the Hockey Writers where they should target him because he does play so well on the defensive end. So an interesting piece. If Montreal does wind up inking him to a long-term deal, I think it's a good move in the long run. You pair him on the back end with Petrie and Shea Weber, and that's an interesting top three right there.
Yeah, in the playoffs, see, defense wasn't really the problem for the Canadiens. They allowed 1.90 goals per game in the playoffs. But again, they were getting a lot of scoring from their defensemen. Petrie was coming through. I mean, he was the storyline for them on defense. Weber's got the shot he's got. But it can't hurt to get another defenseman and help carry Price out more. I mean, Edmondson had a career high this year, 20 points for a guy that's not really an offensive juggernaut of a player. 7 goals, 13 assists, average 18 minutes and 27 seconds of time on ice per game. He had 1 goal in 4 posting games, but like you said, he is a guy that is a very good defenseman. And honestly, I really thought that St. Louis was going to re-sign him, keep him, because he was such a big part of their championship run. And I think that this year, St. Louis struggled defensively in the playoffs. I mean, Binnington was not good. It didn't help that your goalie wasn't stopping anything. But Edmondson's a big key. And if Montreal canning him, great. If not, it's not terrible that you're losing a fit. It's not like you give a second or a third round pick for this guy. But he's not an old guy at all, and I think he could really help this Montreal defense and get them to be more structured.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, a 5th-round pick isn't the end of the world, but it's interesting when you think about you were going to have the same chance as every other team in the league in a month to sign him. So you could have kept your pick, especially a team like Montreal that I know they made the first round and upset Pittsburgh, but they're still rebuilding, if you will. They're retooling.
They're ways away from winning a cup. They're ways away. So
I get the want to bolster your defense in front of Carey Price, and obviously they made a move acquiring a backup goaltender as well, and Jake Allen. So they're putting the back end first, which I love because as we've seen, defense and goaltending win chips. You got to build it from the back end to the front. So Montreal is definitely going in the right direction, but it just very interesting. I mean, I hope for their sake and for Mark Bergevin's sake that they do sign Edmondson, because then a lot of questions will be asked about why do it if you don't have an inside track at signing him.
Yeah. Before we go to the Wild making moves, because they made 2 significant moves, Brendan, the Metropolitan Division just got a little tougher because Peter Laviolette is now the head coach of the Capitals, and I feel like he's coached every team that Trotz has coached in his career.
That is true.
It's funny.
That's true.
It's very funny, but a great coach. We've seen what he can do. He's Flyers. I'm pretty sure he brought deep in the playoffs. I mean, he's just been a great coach throughout his career, and I think that this Metro division, it's just kind of insane of how strong this division is compared to everybody else. Prime coaches, prime goaltending now. He's going to get Samsonov. Hope he's going to test the free agency, but, you know, everyone like AV's got Hart. The Rangers have Shesterkin. Islanders have Sorokin. They're great goaltending in this division and great coaching. This is going to be a fun battle to see what happens next season.
It really is. And this is a great hire because Peter Laviolette is a veteran coach. He knows how to figure out a defensive structure, which is what the Capitals really struggled with this postseason round against the Islanders. The Islanders trapped them beautifully and wound up countering, and they had no answer. So I think Laviolette's going to come in. He's going to help settle it down. And they realize right now that they got 2 to 3 years left to try and win another cup. Ovechkin's getting older. Backstrom's getting older. They're going to lose Holtby. Hopefully Samsonov can take over full time and be the same goalie he was in short spells this season. And I think that hiring a veteran coach instead of going a different route is the right move for this team.
I completely agree. And I think, like you said, they're running out of time. I mean, this Capitals team, you look at Tampa and it's okay. Well, Stamkos is getting older, or Hedman's getting older, or the old guys getting older, but then they have young guys like Point that come in, Chernak, Cirelli, all these young guys. The Caps, you know, they have Tom Wilson's not that old, but Backstrom, Carlson, Ovechkin. I mean, they're not young players like they once were. They don't really have the farm system that's bringing up these young guys. Yes, the Hershey Bears aren't a terrible minor league team, but you're not hearing these big names come up and step in. Kuznetsov was probably the last one that really came in and was like, wow. And that was a couple of years ago. So I think the time's running out, but a great hiring, which really leaves the question if Gerard Gallant's going to be a perfect fit for Seattle, and they should really target him because Laviolette would have been a great pick. Laviolette's gone now. Gerard Gallant seems like the guy for Seattle.
If he gets Seattle, if he winds up coaching them and gets them to a conference final or Stanley Cup in his first year there and did it with 2 different expansion teams, I've never seen somebody book a ticket to the Hall of Fame.
I was going to say, he's taking the fast pass with Disney. He's going to he's going right there.
That's crazy. But going to the Minnesota Wild now, they made 2 very interesting moves. I like one of them more than the other because one is big big money, but they signed defenseman Jonas Brodin to an 8 years, 70, I think it's 7 year, not 8, 7 year, $42 million contract extension with an AAV of $6 million per. And Jonas Brodin is never going to get the limelight, similar to a Joel Edmondson, but he's been very good in his time in Minnesota. He had 26 assists and 2 goals this season, a plus 15, career low in giveaways, which I do like at 15. And he plays a lot of minutes, over 21 minutes a game, and he does very well in the defensive end. So I understand why they want to bring him back.
I mean, the Wild allowed the 10th most goals in the NHL this season at 217. To be on the plus side of that is very good. And yes, plus minus really it's not a great stat to dictate how much you're worth. Yeah. But he's your stereotypical defensive defenseman. He does his job every night. He plays on the second line, deep pairing with Matt Dumba. Dumba might now, there's rumors that he's going to be on the move. They could get something for him. He's a young guy. He's more offensive than Brodin. But he's your consistent defenseman that you need. And that's something that, the Wild haven't had success in the playoffs. But you need a guy like that in the back end to just, it's a guy like Eric Johnson on Colorado. He doesn't really stand out, but he does his job. And when he's not in the lineup, you realize that, oh my God, someone's missing. The same way the Pelech for the Islanders, when he was gone, it wasn't that Pelech's a superstar defenseman. It's just when he played, the team played better. And I think Brodin has a similar effect.
Yeah, he definitely does. And they want to bring him back because at the same time, like you said, they struggled with goals and allowing goals. And before we cut to a commercial break, they did also acquire Nick Bjugstad from the Pittsburgh Penguins for a conditional pick in 2021. An interesting move. If Bjugstad returns to form, that'll be a great signing for him. He does have 207 points in 439 career games. When we come back, we will have Christian Arnold of NYI Hockey Now joining us to discuss the Islanders and their last-ditch effort to avoid elimination tonight against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Stay with us.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. You're listening to the BS Sports Show on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
And welcome back to the BS Sports Show here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. As we said, Christian Arnold will be joining us momentarily to discuss the New York Islanders, and Tampa Bay is one win away from the Stanley Cup. So we have Christian with us now.
Christian, can you hear us?
I can. There you go. Clear.
All right. Well, first off, happy belated birthday.
Well, thank you for that.
Birthday.
Thank you, guys.
So we'll just get right into it. So in your latest article, you talked about this Islanders first line that has to start picking up the slack. They have 6 points in this series, and Barzal said it's about putting the puck in the net. How much do you look at this and go, is it a problem with Jordan Eberle just not finishing because he's had prime chances, or is it a line as a whole it just hasn't really been clicking this series?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even say that I don't think they've been clicking. They've had their chances. I think it's been the finishing, and sometimes when you're on that cold of a streak, I guess you could say that, like anything else, you just start to overthink it. You grip the stick too tight, kind of all those cliches that we all kind of roll our eyes with. But at the same time, there's a bit of truth there. There's a reason why they're cliches. Because there's a bit of truth. I think you see it there, even last series. Like Jordan Eberle is the guy who gets a lot of the focus, right? Because when you look at that line, it's Lee, Barzal, and Eberle. And the two guys that are supposed to score a lot of the goals there are Barzal and Eberle. So, when those two guys are not scoring, and they become the focal point of this. And with Eberle, I think, the guy couldn't buy a goal last series. It's got to be frustrating. And like I said, you start to grip the stick a little bit. You start to get a little frustrated. And I'm not saying that they've played terribly. Like they've had their chances. It's just finding that finishing touch. And of course, Andrei Vasilevsky's been playing phenomenal this entire series too. So it's kind of a perfect storm of everything where, you get a couple guys who've been struggling to find the back of the net. You get a hot goaltender, and it combines to be a rough spot. The Islanders are going to need that scoring without a doubt. And you look at the comparison too, and I think that's part of it is the fact that the opponent's top line has been doing so well. Tampa Bay's top line has been doing so well. They had 6 points in the game in Game 4. The Islanders' top line has 6 points the entire series. So that also tends to become a focal point too when you're not scoring and they are, especially the top line that you're going against. So that only adds to the pressure.
Speaking of some moves that could be made tonight, Trotz alluded to that there may be a few line changes, maybe some mix up. One thing I've heard is switching Anders Lee and Anthony Beauvillier. And, what can Beauvillier bring to this line if he's now put on the top line?
Yeah, I mean, look, Anthony Beauvillier, obviously, he's a pretty good addition to that top line. or would be a good addition to the top line, just because, just changing it up a little bit. Anthony Beauvillier has been great too. When you look at the second line, you look at Brock Nelson's production as well. Beauvillier is a great assist guy. He has a great vision on the ice. I think the perfect example of that was the setup for the Brock Nelson goal the other day, where it was kind of that no-look pass off the rebound. And I mean, then the hustle play that he had there too, to kind of outwork the Tampa Bay Lightning defenders to get to the puck and set up a goal there. So I think that it would do the Islanders well. I mean, it also just changes things up, right? And sometimes that's just the easiest thing. Like even the simplest fix sometimes is the best one. So he certainly brings a lot to that line if that's the possibility that they go with. They certainly bring a guy that knows how to move the puck and certainly knows how to create chances and put a couple back in the back of the net as well. So he brings all that to whichever line that he'll be on if that decision is made.
Yeah, we really saw his speed too, especially in the Capital Series when he makes his own plays and stuff like that. I think that's something that he could really help alongside Barzal, maybe even getting Eberle going. Looking at the fourth line, Cizikas has left the bubble with Kunako, but obviously Cizikas is the main storyline. Obviously, we don't know what the injury is, but he had to leave the bubble, which means it's probably serious and he won't return. Pajot has been a great fit on that line, but Cizikas hasn't been scoring, and people think, well, he's not scoring, he's not doing anything. But we know Cizikas as a guy on the fourth line that does a lot more than what the stat sheet shows. So what is him not being in this lineup tonight and the last couple of nights? How does that really impact this Islander team?
Well, I think it tests that center depth, right? We talked about it a lot going into the postseason in some of these series where the Islanders finally had the center depth that they so desperately needed during the regular season, especially after, even after Pajot got here, where he was kind of asked to do a little bit more because the Islanders were trying to fill in some of the gaps there without a guy like Cizikas there to center the fourth line. He's a solid face-off guy. I mean, obviously he's been given a few opportunities and big moments to take defensive zone face-offs throughout the playoffs, and sometimes it's worked, sometimes it hasn't, but more often than not it works. And he's been pretty strong in the face-off dot. So that's a huge loss for the Islanders right there. You talk about a guy that knows how to kill penalties. You can be an asset on the power play as well a little bit. And you lose that energy guy. The fourth line is always talked about as the energy line. So you take him out of the equation. And that's not to say it changes the play of Cal Clutterbuck or Matt Martin, but it certainly changes the dynamic of that line. And he can play that physical style that they do and still complement it with some of the offensive skill set that he has. And I guess you could say that Matt Martin picks up some of the slack there with 5 goals in the postseason too. So he's kind of been the offensive juggernaut on that line, which is an interesting turn of events too. So, but yeah, you look at the loss of Casey Cizikas, and that's a big one for the Islanders. They've managed to kind of make up for it by getting Pajot involved and kind of these makeshift lines that they've put together. So it worked. I don't want to say that there was too much of a drop off last game because the difference in Game 4 was not losing a defensive zone face-off draw or anything like that. It was a couple mental mistakes there right off after the Brock Nelson goal that gave the Islanders the lead in the second period. So, but it hurts them nonetheless.
So we're going to give you a chance now to look like an absolute genius. Which player tonight do you think steps up and comes through to help the team avoid elimination?
You mean the chance to look like a fool?
Well, no, everyone's always wrong.
Yeah, right. I think I will say this. I'll go out on a limb and say I think this is the game that the Islanders top line gets together and figures it out a little bit here. And I think you'll see Barzal get on the board, and I think you'll see Eberle pot one, which is a very, very bold prediction. So
very bold.
I will ask you to delete this entirely if I'm wrong. But I think I'll give them the edge here because I think they understand. I think they've had to answer questions the last couple of days about it. It's been the focus really from NYI Hockey Now, it's Newsday, to the Post, to every other media outlet that's been covering this series is the lack of production from those guys. And they're very well aware of the need and the urgency for them to find the back of the net and put up some points because, the Islanders, as they've said countless times, they're at their best when all four lines are rolling. And when you don't have that top line production, it puts a lot more onus on the other lines there. And you don't have all 4 lines are rolling. So this is an opportunity, and I think they'll take advantage of it to get back to that and put up a couple points on the board for the Islanders tonight. They need to. This is the game that if they're going to do it, this is it.
Yep.
No choice.
Yep, I do agree. I think Barzal is going to get a couple, but the usually
you don't want to go with me on Eberle, huh?
Well, Eberle, I'm the host, so I can't delete this, so I have to go on the easier side. But the usually sturdy Islanders defense, right? They've been victimized a couple of times by the cross ice pass, numerous times in the series by the Tampa Bay Lightning. How can they prevent those seam passes and come away victorious in a do or die Game 5?
Yeah, no, I think it's really been the fact that Tampa is such a quick team that the Islanders have struggled to kind of match that and follow that up. And I think you saw that in the way that in 27 seconds, the Tampa Bay Lightning went from losing the game 1-0 to winning the game because they transition right there, right off the draw, the ability to move the puck right from their own blue line, right to, basically a kind of home run pass to Blake Coleman to set up that the breakaway goal there. And then the perfection passing from the top line there. The Islanders it's been tough for the Islanders. There's been some mismatches. They've gotten caught flat-footed a little bit, and I think that's kind of just getting back to the basics. And guys maintaining the pressure on their guy. I mean, another great example of that was the tapping goal that I believe that was Braden Point, if I'm not mistaken, got the goal. Where there's no one down low to take him. He's just sitting there on the side of the net, and he gets 2 or 3 whacks at that. So, I mean, you just can't have that. I think that was Matt Barzal's guy too. And Barzal kind of just skated by and didn't come back to try and push him off. So I think it's really just, they got to take advantage of, or not take advantage. They have to stick with their guy and just be cognizant of the defensive assignments, especially when things start to get hairy like that. And then, like you were saying, they just need to get sticks in the passing lanes and break up some of those chances. It's not rocket science sometimes what Tampa Bay is going to do. They just do it so effectively sometimes that the Islanders look a little silly. And, that go-ahead goal there in the second period certainly was one of those instances.
I think you nailed it on the head with the transition game for the Lightning. It's been just they've blown every that's how they've been winning. The Islanders first off, the Islanders do a very poor job of getting out of their zone. And when they do, they get it barely out of their zone, which allows the Lightning to just go back in and do their job as the Islanders are changing from being tired, excuse me. That's the biggest key for them, why they've been so dominant in these playoffs. Just their puck movement from defense to offense is just stellar. Yeah,
and I mean, too, the funny thing is that's kind of where the Islanders' bread and butter is when they're playing at their best, right? They're a very good defensive team, which translates to creating those offensive opportunities. And you've seen that in bits and pieces, but they really haven't been able to establish that as much as I'm sure they'd like to. And then comparatively, you look at the way Tampa Bay's been able to do that. They dominate the offensive zone. Possession time has been skewed in their favor at certain points. And then, of course, it's just taking advantage of those little mistakes. When the Islanders get caught flat-footed, when there's a little mistake, a bad turnover, that's been the difference maker. You look at a lot of these games, the Islanders are not playing bad. They're playing right there with them at points, but it's those little mistakes that they're just not going to get away with against Tampa Bay. They got away with them against Washington and Florida. Philadelphia, you start to saw the tide turn a little bit, where Philadelphia was kind of doing the same thing, where they were creating those opportunities with an aggressive style of play and throwing the Islanders off their game and then capitalizing on these little mistakes. And now you're seeing it again with Tampa Bay, which, you look at the roster that Tampa Bay has, it's an even tougher roster. It's an even more talented roster than Philadelphia was. And they have the firepower, even without Steven Stamkos in the lineup, that's going to burn you every time when you give them the opportunity to. And I think before we let you go, I think one thing about the Islanders is, it seems like they keep making those simple, stupid mistakes that have costing them. But then you look at it and you know what? This Islanders defense is so good, but Tampa's just so aggressive, the forechecking, that they're forcing these mistakes. It's not like the Islanders are just, Taves trying to dump it into the zone and ices the puck. But you look at it and you look at the replay, there's a Tampa guy coming full speed at them. They have less time to make decisions. That's really, it's pretty much the speed and the thinking of the Lightning is just a lot higher than every team they face, including the Islanders. Yeah, there's a reason why this team is incredible during the regular season. And, they've really kind of bowled over their opponents during the postseason here. You're seeing it firsthand. The Islanders are, like you said, they're a good team. They're not playing terribly. some of those turnovers, I would disagree, or maybe their own doing more so than some of the pressure that Tampa Bay's putting on them. But Tampa Bay, they're putting a lot of pressure on the Islanders, and their defense and that team is not afraid to throw bodies around. So you're seeing it too. Again, going back to what I was saying before, the Islanders kind of got thrown off their game against Philadelphia too when they upped their physical play. And that's not to say the Islanders can't match it or they can't play physically. But when you combine all those factors into the circumstance that they're in right now, you're seeing why that those mistakes are being made. You're seeing why they're behind in the series. You're seeing why the Lightning are taking advantage of some of these errors that they're making because they are so quick and they are such a talented team that the Islanders just can't afford to do that. And then the Islanders have the skill set. They're also just not capitalizing on their own chances too. That's been the biggest storyline too. When you talk about the power play, when you talk about some of these missed chances in the top line, they've been there. Those opportunities have been there. They just haven't capitalized them. And then you look at Tampa Bay, they have. And here we are, a 3-1 series hole going into a game 5.
Well, Christian, thank you very much for joining us today. And hopefully we can blast that prediction out full wide after Barzal and Eberle both pot a couple. So I think that we're going to be in good hands with that prediction. I have a feeling that you're going to be correct.
If they score, I want the two of you tweeting it out from the mountaintops that I said this first at 6:40-ish before the game started.
We got it recorded, so we're gonna as soon as you're correct, the first goal. What if it's 5 minutes in? Then you're gonna see Stefan tweeting out everything right away. Anyway, so.
I better. I'm telling you, if I'm not coming back on. Like this is gold I'm giving you here.
Yeah, I don't know if the mountaintops has good Wi-Fi, but we'll really try that. All right, man, Christian, thanks so much for coming on. Hopefully the Islanders give you a nice birthday win. If not, I'll have to buy you something. So we'll talk later.
It's just good for the website, obviously, for NYI Hockey Now. It's good for that and Hockey Night in New York. As a media member, that part is kind of gone, but the storylines and just keeping this run going is good for for people who are covering the Islanders.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Take care. Enjoy the game tonight. Again, happy belated birthday. You don't look a day over 23, so enjoy, man.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate that.
See ya. Oh, what a nice guy.
Great guy. And
bold predictions.
They are. And I think that that's a safe prediction to take today because in order to usually win an elimination game, and we saw it when they eliminated the Capitals, Barzal coming through, and he scored a big overtime goal in that series. So I think that he scores. Eberle has had numerous chances. And if he hits the net like you've talked about, then yes, his prediction will be right. But I think that the biggest thing that the Islanders are going to have to do is they're going to have to you don't want to fully change your schematics in the middle of a series because you've been doing it for this long and it's worked. But they're going to definitely have to sag that weak side point man down. They're going to have to get in the lane because all Tampa does is they take you on the outside. And as soon as you start to unwind from the middle out, right across the middle of the ice, and that back door is always open. And then they've scored. The game-winning goal that Kucherov scored was like that. They've had Shattenkirk score like that. They've had Braden Point, like he mentioned, score like that. So that's the key to shutting down Tampa Bay.
I think like the hardest thing for this Islander group is the fact that the Lightning don't run 3 forwards and 2D. While on paper that's their position, they have 5 forwards out there, and they also have 5D out there.
Yep.
They use their speed to get back. But I mean, Victor Hedman. I mean, we saw the goal Sergachev scored. That's a defenseman scoring a forehand back end going top shelf goal. Hedman's been lighting the lamp every second. That's why their power play has been so good. I'm pretty sure they're at 30-something%. Islanders' power play at 7%. They're taking advantage of the Islanders' mistakes every single time. But again, go back to transition before we move on to the Dallas Stars, who are now in the Stanley Cup Finals. It's the fact that the Islanders struggle to clear their own zone. And if they do get it out, it's a little bit, like I just said with Christian, it's the fact that the Lightning, with crisp passes, make quick plays that just throw the Islanders off. The Islanders have been caught mismanaging and losing their men plenty of times. I know Barzal on the point goal that happened the other day. Barzal got back in time, but he skated past the crease and he didn't stay with Point, and Point gets 2 hacks at a puck. I think he went on the first one, but regardless, you're back to it. You got to go to the inside of the net and cut off right in front of him. That way that goal does not happen if Barzal, because Barzal was back. All he had to do was be in the right spot, and he went to the outside of Point rather than the inside. That's a goal right there. That's a big goal. And it's unfortunate, but I mean, let's be realistic. This Tampa team was amazing this year. They were amazing last year and realized that they messed up in the playoffs. And this is the year they're going to say, yeah, we're not going to make that same mistake twice. They've got great goaltending. Like we said, their defense and their offense they've gotten from their D has been so crucial. It's been a difference maker because the Islanders, yeah, they got goals from, defensemen at times, but it's just the threat. The Islanders' defensive threat is nowhere near the threat of Tampa, and that's really been the storyline this playoff series.
I agree. Tampa Bay has just been right now the better team, and it's really as simple as that. And now moving on to the Dallas Stars, who after losing in the second round last year to the eventual Stanley Cup champion St. Louis Blues, find themselves in the Stanley Cup final. And if you're one of those NHL fans that started to become a fan after the offensive outburst of recent years, you hate watching the Dallas Stars because they finished the regular season 29th in goals for with 178 and second in goals allowed with 174. So this team does not play in many high-scoring games outside of the Colorado Avalanche series. But what they do well is they take advantage of their few opportunities and they shut you down. And part of them shutting down teams is Anton Khudobin and how miraculous he has been, especially in this last series against Vegas.
Yeah, in the playoffs as a whole, his stats, they're solid. They're not amazing, but they're solid. 2.67 goals against average, 918 save percentage. And the biggest thing for a goalie and seeing, how they come up in like the clutch is your goals saved above average. And while a guy like Vasilevsky has over 6 more saved goals than other goalies, he's at a positive 1.12 goals saved above average, which is great because then you look at the Islanders goaltending and Semyon Varlamov's in the negatives, as are a lot of goalies in the league when, not coming through. But Khudobin's been great. In round 1 versus Calgary, 2.5 goals against average, 926 save percentage. Round 2 against Colorado, 3.29 goals against average, 895 save. That's a tough Colorado team that they had no business beating, which we all thought Colorado was going to find a way. They scored goals. But he not only rebounds from that series in a tough 7-game series, but now is his best round in the playoffs against that was against Colorado, my bad. 3.29 goals against average, 895 save was bad. And you just look, and he dominated against Vegas, 1.60 goals against average, 951 save percentage. If you're going to wait for that to be that's as the playoffs go on, you're going to face better and better teams. Yes, was Colorado a better team than Vegas statistically in the playoff scoring? No, but they were close. They were both good teams. But he shows up against Vegas against a tough goaltender in Robin Lehner, who's played out of his mind as well, finds a way to get it done. And no Ben Bishop. This is a guy that led the league in save percentage with a 930. He's not your stereotypical goaltender. We've talked about this over and over again. He does not look like a goalie that should be doing what he's doing, but he's doing wonders. And Brendan, we talked about it earlier. His post game, he won the award in the locker room. He gets a nice cheer, and he goes, "I'm not going to try to do his accent because it's just too good. You have to go check out YouTube for that." But he's like, "We're not going home," and they all applaud and clap and have a goalie back there that you trust, where maybe you didn't really have the complete trust in him going in. You lose your star netminder. Ben Bishop's been stellar. As much as people think he's overrated, he's been as advertised, very, very good. Khudobin finds a way, and they get, Brendan, you could dive into it. They have young players that have really stepped up.
Yeah, definitely. And Anton Khudobin, what a beauty, by the way. The picture that's circulating around with him holding the mug of beer in the off season, he's like your everyday guy. He doesn't seem like he's lost in the superstardom of being in the NHL, and he seems like a great teammate, and that's why the team rallies around him. But a couple other young beauties are Kiviranta and Gurianov, who both just continue to score big goals for this Dallas Stars team. Kiviranta obviously had a hat trick and beating Colorado, and now all of a sudden he scores the game-tying goal when Dallas seemed down and out in Game 5 and forces OT, where Denis Gurianov can score the game-winning goal in overtime, one that I think Robin Lehner will want back. But at the same time, it's an absolute rip short side, and Gurianov has scored this postseason. It's the 9th of the postseason, and somebody at that young of an age to have the success that he's having, as well as Kiviranta, who's got 4 goals and minimal playing time, I think is really one of the keys. And outside of Jamie Benn and Joe Pavelski, the veterans haven't been scoring often for Dallas. Obviously, Radulov has that big game winner. Sagan's played much better, but he hasn't been contributing offensively like you expect Tyler Seguin to. So these young guys have been huge, and of course, their defense has been amazing.
Yeah, you want to hear some fun facts about Gurianov?
Let's hear it.
Most goals in a playoff year, rookies in NHL history. He ranks 6th in that list. Dino Ciccarelli, 1981, 14 goals. Gensel in 2017, 13. Marchand in 2011, 11. Roenick in 1990, 11. Claude Lemieux, 1986, he had 10. Gurianov with 9. And he leads all rookies in both goals and points this postseason. He is having a great run. that line of Jan Markaryanov and Pavelski has done wonders for this Dallas Stars team. And before we move on, Robin Lehner, despite, wanting that last goal back, his glove hand was a little low, but it's a power play goal and they make mistakes. Lehner is a .919 save percentage, 1.94 goals against average in the playoffs, and he's rumored to have a 5-year, $25 million extension. He would not talk about it. He said, I have not discussed contracts. We'll wait till after the season's over. Well, the season's over, and it looks like he will get the long-term deal he's been waiting for. In Vegas, Brendan, they had a 2-0 lead in this game. They shoot themselves in the foot late. Tuck takes a tripping penalty, 14:36 to go in the third, and in the overtime, Whitecloud, a rookie, delay of game penalty at 2:15 of overtime, and that cost him.
That was tough to see, not because of the penalty, but just his reaction after in the penalty box, like his head in his hands, and you feel for him because that's not something that anybody intentionally does. He's being back pressured and he tries to whip it high off the glass. It just misses and goes over, and you really hope in that situation that your boys can pick you up and kill that one off. And they did a great job up until that one shot. I think it was really the only clean shot that Dallas had on that power play, and it snuck by Robin Lehner, and you could see how demoralized he looked, but that's not what lost the game. What lost the game was how quickly Vegas managed to take their foot off the gas pedal in that third period. They scored 12 seconds in, went up 2-0, and instead of rolling, they sat back. And they kind of looked like similar to what the Philadelphia Flyers did against the Islanders when they had leads in that series. You just can't do that in the NHL playoffs. You have to keep putting your foot on the gas and go for the kill in that type of game. And they didn't do it, and Dallas gets one back, and next thing you know, you're going to overtime. And that game, as soon as it went to overtime, had all the feel that Dallas is going to win it. Vegas looked demoralized. They looked like, wow, what just happened? They were stunned, and the better team wound up winning the series, which I didn't think I would be saying in the beginning of it, but Dallas was definitely the better team.
I mean, it's been ignore the phone ringing in the background, busy day on the phone lines. No, but you look at it, and again, Dallas didn't get a lot of credit coming into this, let alone making it this far to a Stanley Cup, to a potential chance at winning. I mean, we'll see who makes it, either the Islanders or Tampa. But regardless, I mean, they're the first team to make it to the Stanley Cup. They've earned it. I mean, Your top guys step up when they've had to. Your young guys have stepped up. I mean, it's just been a great story for Dallas. People are saying, well, hockey doesn't belong in the South, blah, blah, blah. You know what? Hockey belongs everywhere. We got how many teams in California? Yep. Having Dallas play the way they've played is just good for hockey. When a market that's not a traditional place for the sport does well, it just makes it such more of a special thing. And I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I'm assuming Khudobin's going to play lights out like he has been. It'll be a fun one to watch, regardless if it's Tampa or the Islanders.
Yep, I agree. It's definitely going to be a very interesting Stanley Cup final because you have two different teams that are going to come out of the East. It's either going to be the transition and high-scoring Tampa Bay Lightning against the stout Dallas Stars, or basically the Dallas Stars versus themselves and the New York Islanders. And either way, it's going to be very interesting. But before we go to commercial, we have about 3 to 4 minutes. Nathan MacKinnon or Connor McDavid? I know you wanted to talk about this. You mentioned who people would pick to start their team around. And for what McKinnon's done success-wise in his career, McDavid hasn't reached that point of team success, but individual success he's had in leaps and bounds.
Look, it's no question McDavid is a better player than Nathan MacKinnon. While the mark might not be, looking at the stat sheet, obviously McDavid has missed a lot of time with injury. He's played in 351 career games. Nathan MacKinnon's played in 525. So there's clearly a lot more, but you look at the points for McDavid, he's got 469 points, and MacKinnon has 495. And, the question is you take MacKinnon off of his team, you take McDavid off of his team, Edmonton's not making the playoffs if McDavid's not in there. I do think if McKinnon's out of there, the Avalanche are. The question is, though, which team's more likely to win a championship putting them in? I think McDavid out, they don't make it. McDavid in, they're a playoff team, but they're not ready. They don't have the goaltending. They don't have the defense. You look at MacKinnon, and his situation is very, very different. While they came up short this year, they were heavy favorites. And I think adding MacKinnon back into the Colorado team puts them in a better chance to win a cup. Again, this goes back to the general manager building a team around. We've seen what happened. Chiarelli has really just screwed the Oilers year after year with boneheaded moves he's made. But, I mean, Brennan, I'm interested to see what you think because, again, it's no doubt about it that Connor McDavid's a better player. He's one of the best players in the league and probably will be all time when said and done. I just think MacKinnon, with the team around him, it just fits. It just fits to becoming a championship contender rather than Edmonton, who's got a lot more things they have to do to get McDavid to winning a cup.
Yeah, it's very interesting because McDavid has 26 fewer points and a much shorter time frame. He's also 23 as opposed to McKinnon, who's 25. And on the power play, McKinnon has 154 points, McDavid 137. So both players are extremely potent on the power play and 5-on-5. But to me, I look at it as if you put McKinnon on Edmonton, would Edmonton be able to even make the postseason? I think that they would, or it would be close. It would be much closer than if they had McDavid. And I think if you put McDavid on Colorado may have had a little bit more success already. Now, I'm not saying this year because obviously what McKinnon did this postseason was absolutely absurd. And I don't even know if McDavid would have been able to do what he did. But over the last 2 years of Colorado becoming more of a contender, I think that with that team around him, it won't just be the McDavid and Draisaitl show. McDavid would have a better supporting cast, and I think that he would be a better driving force. But also McKinnon is 6 foot 200 pounds. This is a big boy. We see him do some reverse hits, so he's got the size on McDavid. Now, I mean, look at me. If I'm blindfolded and have to pick at one player to start a franchise out of a hat with these two guys in it, I won't be disappointed either way.
I just think it's very interesting because both guys have had success, and the thing is, can McDavid stay healthy? His stats obviously show that when he is healthy, he's the best player in the league. The problem is, we talked about it earlier, if your best player is not on the rink when it matters the most, then how important, I mean, obviously they're important, but how can they be a game changer like they are? We saw McDavid, he didn't show up for game 1, I think, in the qualifiers, then showed up in game 2 and dominated it. But we saw McKinnon, what he did the whole entire playoff run. It just goes to show that I really think, even with the stats being as close as they are, with McDavid missing a lot more games than McKinnon has, I just think McKinnon has, again, the team around him, he's just in a better chance to win right now. And I think, again, it comes down to Chiarelli messing up. But McDavid, you see that his line mates, I mean, he's got Zach Cassian on the top line with him. You look at McKinnon, and who does he have? He has superstars on the lines with him. And I think that just playing with him, McDavid obviously would probably make those players so much better. I don't think McKinnon on the Oilers could help a guy like Cassian get a long-term. I mean, Cassian got his deal because of McDavid. If he's not playing with McDavid, Cassian's probably a 4th-line player at most, maybe 3rd. And, I mean, yeah, I would have to, I took the hot take that McKinnon was a better player for his team. But hearing your points, Brendan, I'll have to admit that I agree McDavid is the better player. I just think it comes back to more the team around him.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously somebody needs to help McDavid out, and he signed a long-term deal in Edmonton, which really is not beneficial for him. But to put it in perspective before we head to break, McKinnon had 25 points in 15 playoff games. McDavid had 9 and 4. So both these players are exceptionally talented, and they're both young, so we're going to see them for a long time coming. Stay tuned, because after this commercial break, we're going to dive into the MLB. A lot of big headlines to go into and a lot of more hot takes to talk about. Stay with us.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. You're listening to the BS Sports Show on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to the BS Sports Show. And now we're going to dive into the MLB. Of course, the big news around Major League Baseball was the Chicago Cubs' Alex Mills, who threw a no-hitter. And anytime somebody throws a no-hitter, it's amazing to watch. It's especially in a 12-0 game, the fact that he didn't lose the focus. And usually at that point, somebody just winds up caving in. But he struck out 5 in a no-hitter, which is absolutely absurd how low it was, and kept his pitch count down, walked 3, and that was it. The only 3 people to reach base that game.
The first time since 1969, Ken Holtzman, where there's 5 strikeouts or fewer in a no-hitter. And it tied Oakland's Dallas Braden during his perfect game in 2010 for fewest in a no-hitter since at least 1988. And he's the last Cub since Jake Arrieta in 2016. Remember, that was when Arrieta was on top of his game, and then, he's MIA with the Phillies. He doesn't even do much anymore. I don't even
roids.
But you look back, and it's always these guys that throw it. None of these, superstars do it, but Philip Umber, Chris Heston did it against the Mets when he was on the Giants. No recollection of him wherever he went. You don't. Philip Umber was, I think, a 4th or a 5th pitcher for the Chicago White Sox. He did it. I mean, we saw Giolito do it earlier in the year. That's a good pitcher, and I think it's these guys for a reason. It's because you don't expect it, and they come out there and he's not striking out 13 or 14. He had a nice pitch count. he's just in control, and it's very hard when maybe players against him don't really know. A top star pitcher, the scouting report's all there. They know exactly what they're going to throw when. They usually have a good idea of what they bring. And a guy like Mills, maybe the other teams don't really know exactly. And you usually see these things happen early in a season, in like April or May, because the hitters got to get used to playing again. But no, we're in August, and yes, the season started late. But we're in prime baseball with a week or two left of the regular season, and it's really cool to see. And after the game, he goes, "It's kind of crazy. I didn't even know how to celebrate. Just something that all came together today. Obviously, a memory I'll have forever, and great for him. And it's great for baseball when you see things like this happen."
Yeah, and he kind of summarized it there, that it's something that all came together today. I think every pitcher in the MLB has the stuff to throw a no-hitter. The problem is that usually when you have a good curveball and good fastball, your third pitch isn't working, and it very rarely do all 3 or 4 pitches work. And in order to throw a no-hitter, you need every single pitch to work. You need to plan it accordingly. Your catcher has to call a good game. So many things have to occur. And a lot of things that don't get talked about in no-hitters is the catcher and how happy it makes the catcher feel to catch one, because you're doing a lot of work there. You're holding runners on if they are, you're calling the right pitches, framing pitches. So just an all-around great job by the Cubs, and congratulations to Alex Mills.
Yeah, one thing before we move on is usually in no-hitters or perfect games, there's like one big play in the field, or really, he was really in control. A few line drives to the outfield, but, routine catches. And I think that's a big difference maker that will set this no-hitter apart from other ones. Because, you look back at the biggest plays happen in these games. You go, oh, 7th inning, that catch on the wall, or diving play. You didn't need that. He was in that. He had that much control that wasn't needed. He just phenomenal game for him.
Yep, that much control while pitching to contact too, which is pretty remarkable. The Oakland Athletics, one of their big names, and Matt Chapman, is out for the rest of the season after getting hip surgery, and that is a huge loss. He wasn't having a great year, only batting .232 with 10 home runs and 25 RBIs, but at the same time, that's still Matt Chapman, and come postseason time, you do want his glove at third base, despite him having a career-low .944 fielding percentage this year. Yeah,
if this was the year to get hurt, this probably was. He's having a terrible season, but he provides protection for a guy like Matt Olson. This lineup, Semien, Matt Olson, this Oakland A's team has been very, very good this season. They sit first place in the AL West, 29-17 record, and first off, he's a leader in the field. You look at him, and when he's on his game at third base, he's like a Nolan Arenado. He makes unreal plays. And yes, 944 fielding percentage this year is not where he's, usually at. He's definitely 950, 960 or above. And I think it's a big loss for Oakland, who again is in first place, but they're in a tough division as well. Obviously you have teams like the Angels who don't do things, but it's hard to lose a guy when you're on top. Luckily for them, they're not fighting for that last playoff spot, because losing a guy like this probably means you're done. But they have the lead in the division, and they'll be okay. But if they need their replacements to come in, Sheldon Neuse, if I even pronounced that right, NEUSE, 25-year-old, he's batted .250, 0 homers, 7 RBIs this year. I'll tell you right now, he's not a better defensive third baseman. So we'll see what this Oakland A's can do to help at that position, but also in the lineup losing a key bat.
Yeah, for the Athletics, they're in third place in the postseason standings there, in a battle with the top between the White Sox and Rays, and they're 30-18. The closest team in their division is the Houston Astros, who are 23-24. So they built up a sizable lead where they're not going to worry about somebody catching them. They still have enough pieces in pitching to maintain that, but you really don't want to lose Chapman for the long haul. And like you said, if there was a year to get hurt, it's this one, but this is also the best the A's have looked in a long time. And this is the first time they might not have to face the Yankees in a playoff game. So, they really wanted to have a full healthy team and go have a run at a chip.
You also don't know how long I don't know how long you're out for hip surgery. It's definitely months. And does it impact next season for them? That's a key question, because this year, while it's still a season and people are playing for a World Series, you look back and go, okay, maybe it's just a wash. Let's forget about this. But it depends. Hopefully he doesn't have a setback or anything like that. Again, key bat, despite batting .230, it doesn't matter. It's what you do now and what you do in the moment. I've said that over and over again in sports. We're so key on looking at stats. Stats are everything. Well, Sanchez is batting 190, or whatever he's batting one. It's been bad, but don't even look at the stats when he comes up to bat with bases loaded in the moment. All right, forget your stats aside. Get a hit, get a walk, make the pitcher work. It doesn't matter what you're batting in that moment. It matters you coming through. And Chapman, I know for a fact in previous years and this year, he's a big weapon to have in the playoff, because he could come through with that big hit or that big glove at third base.
Exactly, and that's why you don't want to lose him. But like you mentioned, the bat, Albert Pujols, one of the best bats baseball's ever seen, and he's still at his old age, is still hitting home runs. He had his 660th home run, which ties him with Willie Mays for 5th all time. And it's just, he's such a great guy. You watched him when he was with the Cardinals signing things for fans. You watched him at All-Star games bringing his son, like just a genuine love for baseball. And he's in a lot of record books. And let me tell you something, one of the most storied careers that we've witnessed in the MLB.
And it sucks because we've obviously grown up with Albert Pujols, and when he's gone from the league, it's going to be tough because, you're used to Albert Pujols, and obviously you don't hear his name as much due to him getting older, not playing to the level we're used to, but also he's out West. Yes, when he was in St. Louis, we're not watching him as much, but he was so good with St. Louis. Comes to the Angels, that deal is probably not going to pay off for the Angels, which we'll get to the Angels later because it's a struggling franchise. But good for Albert Pujols because he gets to go out there. Yes, he DHs. You see him run around the bag after home runs. It looks like a struggle. To me, it does, but his body's clearly failing him a little bit. But if he can keep hitting and crushing baseballs, keep it going. They got the DH position for a reason, and it's just awesome to see a guy that's really been an amazing guy on and off the field. He's really helped his teams. He comes through in big moments. It's been a pleasure watching him play.
Yeah, and definitely. And whenever he does call it a career, you can expect a Hall of Fame speech to be given by him within 5 years of his retirement. So now moving on to one of the funnier stories of the week. The Houston Astros finally came to LA to play the Dodgers, and the Dodgers fans desperately wanted, like Yankees fans did, to be in attendance when their teams met. But you couldn't. So what they did was they waited outside the stadium by the players' entrance for the players to come while they were holding signs and banging garbage cans. And in the middle of the game, a plane flew over the stadium with a banner that read "Houston cheats, bang, bang." And I think it's just hysterical that it's kind of gone lost. And, obviously there's a world pandemic going on, which has a lot more significance. You have the presidential election coming up. There's so many other events that are happening that this has kind of been brushed under the rug. But LA still remembers, and they did a great job of, rubbing it into Houston's face.
Listen, the Astros got off beautifully with COVID and not getting punished severely at all. Mm-hmm. Good for the Dodgers fan base because, they look at the schedule, they circle the dates, the Astros are coming, they're ready. People are going to pay high price to go there and embarrass them. And whoever the plane idea, brilliant, because they can't stop a plane from going over there. And it's just awesome because, it shows this rallies around an organization. This Dodgers team should have had a Super Bowl. Oh my God. Should have had a World football started in my head's in 30,000 different places. They should have had a World Series. Look at the Yankees too. You never know. The Astros really screwed a few franchises around, and they screwed careers, definitely, with players coming and facing them and then never getting a chance. Good for Dodgers fans. And if you're an Astros fan or a player, as much as you want to deny everything that happened, you deserve it, and you got to suck it up and deal with it. Unfortunately, they don't really have to deal with the fans because it would have been watching the games. Every Astro game would have been must watch when they weren't home.
Yep.
It would have been, you wouldn't be able to hear the announcers with the boos, the garbage, everything. And it sucks that we don't get to see it, but I think next year when the fans come back, nobody forgets, and they'll do the same thing again. Years to come, the Astros will be known for this, and fans won't forget.
When they were scheduled to come to Yankee Stadium in the end of September, which would have been a key series because both teams were expected to still make the playoffs, and I could tell you that Yankee Stadium would have been loud and one of the most fun places to be during that 3-game set. So I know Yankees fans are disappointed, but trust me, when next year fans are allowed, they'll remember. They won't forget. But there was still games that were played in this series, and the two teams split. They each took one. Houston won the first game 7-5, despite trailing 5-1 in the 8th and 5-2 in the 9th. And the Dodgers closer, Kenley Jansen, came in, gave up 5 runs, 4 of which were earned, did not record an out in the inning. Similar to what happened to Chad Green and Adam Ottavino for the Yankees the other day. But they definitely did not get what they wanted out of Jansen. And it leads to the question of just how good are the Dodgers, which we'll get to in a second. But that this game wasn't the way they drew it up, even though they bounced back in game 2.
Look at Kenley Jansen, and this is not the first time he's failed the Dodgers. In the playoffs, he does that as well. He doesn't come through when it matters. And I think that for this Dodgers team to be, are they really this good, or is it a scheduling thing with the teams they've played? We'll get to that in a second. But the Dodgers, they use openers. Bullpen allows 1 run over 9 innings. Dodgers respond with the 8-1 win. in game 2. And I think, against an Astros team, you're trying to make a statement. You're trying to make a statement saying, all right, this is the actual Astros we're facing. They're no longer cheating. We could still beat them. And they did that in game 2. I just think, you need your player like Kenley Jansen can't do that. And fortunately, the Dodgers are, quote unquote, the best team in baseball statistically. And they don't need, this game loss stinks, but it's not like it killed their chances of making the playoffs. They still have a good spot to be in. But Kenley Jansen's got to figure it out, because when playoffs roll around in a couple of weeks, you can have outings like this, because that could be, it's best of 3 series, right?
Yep.
So it's crucial. One game like that, it's not like you have another 3 or 4 games to figure it out. That could be the make or break for a series. So Kenley Jansen, stop doing that.
Yep. So we're going to get into, are the Dodgers really the best team in baseball? Last night, they played the San Diego Padres, lost 7-2. So their record's 33-15, which is still the best in the league. Now, interestingly enough, they're 8-2 against Arizona, who's 17-31, 3-0 against the Angels, who are 20-28, and so on and so forth against all the teams that they play that are below 500. Now, in their division, the only other team that's above 500 is the San Diego Padres. And in the AL West, who they're also playing, the only team above 500 is the Oakland Athletics, who they have not played yet. They're 4-4 against the San Diego Padres. They're 3-1 against Houston, but they did split this latest 3-game set. And it's really interesting because they played 13 blowout games, which they're 12-1 in. So they've won 12 games via blowout. But come postseason, the pitching's tighter. You're not going to be beating teams by 5 runs. So if you take out 12 of those wins, now they only have 21. It's a very interesting scenario here that's playing out. They might be playing above their heads based on their competition, which I don't know if that's a good thing come postseason when all of a sudden the competition ratchets up.
I think the Yankees are in a better spot when they enter the playoffs than compared to the Dodgers, because they've been tested and they failed. And when you fail, you learn. Well, you should learn, but you usually learn more often. When a team, look at the Dodgers and look at the Boston Bruins in hockey. This is a team that was the best team in the league. They deserved it. They played well. The Dodgers, again, they deserve it. They didn't make the schedule. They go out there and play their butts off and they win games. But you look at it and then, you go into a playoffs and then the Bruins lose. They don't make it to the finals. You look at the Dodgers year after year, they said they're going to the finals and they don't ever do it. And that's what the regular schedule of playing good teams. You look at it's against the San Diego Padres, right? They're 4-4, I'm pretty sure.
Against the Padres, they are 4-4, and they still have 3 more games left of this set.
So the Padres, who are behind them in the standings, have played them quite well.
Well,
by
game
one
and a half.
game. And that's a Padres. That's a young team coming up with a ton of, they're riding momentum. They really are with the young guys they have. The pitching's been great. But you look at it and go, okay, against a veteran team, can the Dodgers, because you're not going to be able to kill teams. Like you said, The defense is tighter, everything's tighter. And then it looks back and all right, in a 2-1 game, Kenley Jansen coming in. Is he going to get it done? You want to say yes, but, the bullpen will have to do a great job. We know how Kershaw has been in the playoffs in the past. He hasn't been superstar Kershaw. They have a lot of young guys, though. But you just look at it and you think, all right, the Dodgers are the best because of their schedule, and that's fine. Again, they don't make their schedule, but when it comes around to playoff times, the teams are going to get better as the playoff goes on, and the lack of playing those tough teams, especially if they make it to the World Series, these are very, very good teams. They're going to make it to the finals. Can a Dodgers team that's been riding easily to the top of the division and find a way to get it done? And that's a tough thing when they haven't really had to battle that much.
So right now they're in the 1 seed, which if they lose the series, it could change. But they're slated to play the San Francisco Giants, who are in the 8th spot right now. The Dodgers are 6-4 against them, so they played 10 games. The Giants, who nobody thought would even be in the spot, have played the Dodgers very well. So that's not an easy series by any means, even though it's a best of 3. The team that's a game behind them is the Cincinnati Reds. And that, to me, is very interesting because of how much hype the Reds have had. But in a 3-game set, and when you have to face Sonny Gray and Trevor Bauer at the front of that rotation and Luis Castillo, that's a tough trio of pitchers to have to face in a 3-game set for the Dodgers. And it does create there's some interesting matchups. It's not like they're going to cruise through that first round. We've seen what the Giants can do against them already. And the Reds have the 3 pitchers that you would want to go against a team like the Dodgers.
Yeah, I think the Reds, that'd be a great matchup to watch. And honestly, I'd take the Reds pitching. The Reds pitching has been a problem in the past, but Sonny Gray has really provided a spark for a guy that couldn't do anything in pinstripes. And then you got a guy like Bauer who, he leaves Cleveland and has dominated. And he always outspoken. He's such a funny guy. He was wearing a shirt, I think, in a post-game interview that said, follow me on YouTube. The things that he says, and he's like, I think he got taken out of a game. and the opponents were booing him or something, and he started he just a guy that really just goes with the flow. He doesn't care about the hate, anything like that. I think a guy like that, it's easier to pitch in the major leagues when you don't care. When players that do care and hear the crowd, obviously there's no crowd, but hear people yelling at them, and Trevor takes that and puts it in his pitching and just absolutely dominates. And I would take Cincinnati in a series over the Dodgers. I know how good their Dodgers offense is, but in the playoffs, it's defense wins championship, and that starts with starting pitching, giving you innings. And the Cincinnati Reds have gotten innings from their pitchers, and their bullpen looks really, really good. This could give Dodgers, this could be an upset if that is the case. But the Giants, again, you said the Giants are in a playoff spot. That's hysterical to me because, they had no business doing anything this year. They lose Posey, who has not been the player he's been in the past, but they lose him. Sandoval, they designated for assignment. He hasn't been good at all. He got signed by the Braves, I'm pretty sure. It's a weird, but Yastrzemski's been great. They have guys that have been great. They have veterans in Crawford. They have these veteran players. Johnny Cueto pitching. It'll be very interesting to see if the Dodgers could hold on. But I think the hot take is the Dodgers may be the best pitchers, the best team in baseball on paper. But in the playoffs, I don't think they're going to get it done.
So before we go to a break right now, are you willing to say that the Reds, if they make the postseason, are going to upset the Los Angeles Dodgers?
Yes, I'm going with that hot take. I
really
do. First off, I love the Reds. The Reds team is very good for the first. They've been good, but Castellanos was a key addition for them. They're 1, 2, 3 in the. That's what it is, and it's different in the 3-game series than compared to a 5, usually, and then 7 because one move, one make or break, one bad outing by Kenley Jansen, one bad pitch by Kershaw. It's crunch time. It's no longer we have a few games to rebound. It's all right. We lose the first game, your back's against the wall the second game, and then you have to have the faith that you're going to find a way to get it done. Obviously, if they could out-hit their opponents, the Dodgers will win because they are just power. But the Reds' offense isn't a joke either. Nope. So I do think that we will see an upset if that is the case.
All right. So we're going to get ready to head to commercial break. And when we get back from the break, I will reveal why I'm wearing this pinstripe jersey right now. And we'll dive into New York baseball as well as our 2 MLB hot takes. Well, the one remaining MLB hot take, I should say. So please stay with us and we'll see you in 5 minutes.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. You're listening to the BS Sports Show on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to the BS Sports Show. And I'm going to tell you why I'm wearing the Yankees jersey. So last week, if you were watching, I went on a rant, a very impassioned rant, we'll say, about the Yankees and their lackadaisical play, injury-prone tendencies and struggles. And what happened? They've won 5 straight since then. So I'm taking full credit for that win streak, obviously, because I participated so much in their wins. And let's see if they can continue it. They're down 1-0 right now against the Toronto Blue Jays in the second inning, but they have first and third and 1 out with Brett Gardner up. Please, Brett, do not into a double play. And let's see if I just put that into reality.
Putting things into reality, I've done that way too many times on Twitter, so I apologize to everyone following me because, I'm wearing this jersey for a reason too, but I'd rather not talk about that. So, Brendan, your rant has really given them a kick in the butt to play better. Obviously, like you said, they're down 1-0. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. with a home run. That guy could absolutely rake.
Yep.
But coming to this game, the Yankees won 5 straight games. They've scored 28 runs. They're averaging 5.6 runs per game, and they've allowed only 5. So do the math. We're all mathematicians. That's 1 run a game, and that's a complete difference because we have seen this starting rotation struggle and the bullpen struggle, but it seems like they're finally getting back into Yankees baseball that we expect.
Yeah, so like you said, they have pitched a lot better. One of those pitchers that hasn't actually gotten a win in his 2 very good starts is J.A. Happ, who's gotten 11 1/3, 3 earned runs, and 15 Ks over his last 2 starts, which he wants to pitch in the postseason. You could tell that after that little 2-week stretch early on where Boone was kind of skipping his start, he took that personally, and he's pitching like the guy they acquired a couple of years ago when he came to New York and went on a little bit of a tear. And Brett Gardner with an RBI signal. So there we go. They came through. And listen, this 5-game winning streak started against Toronto. They're now they're a half game back of the Jays, who are 26-20. The Yankees are 26-21, and they're sitting in the 7th seed. This game, this series is huge because if they wind up coming out on top, they're slated to play the Minnesota Twins. And we all know the Minnesota Twins have struggled. I think they've lost 19 straight postseason games, 16 straight, 13 of which are against the New York Yankees. So the Yankees have their number. They have a sense of confidence going into that series. And listen, they have to take care of their business right now. This is the Yankees team now. They're fully healthy minus Judge. And it's time for them to step up and do what they have to do.
Funny, though, I'm pretty sure last year they were not good against Toronto at all when it mattered the most.
Yep.
And it's awesome because this is what baseball is all about. We have a week or two left. I keep saying a week or two. I think it's 2 weeks. But you look at it as, like you said, they have to handle business. They're going against the team that's in front of them. They have to win as many games as possible. And big guys coming back tonight. Stanton comes back, Urshela comes back. Now the question is, can Stanton stay healthy? We think Urshela can. He had a bone spur, but everything seems to be fine with that.
Yep.
But standing back in this lineup is great. I know, we get into it in a second about Torres because he has a little bit of an injury issue right now. But, they're 7th seed. They're 26-21. Yankees take care of business tonight. It's tied 1-1. Keep building on this win streak. Obviously, they're going to lose eventually. All hot teams do. But now's the time to win. And even if you lose, build off each game because you have to go into the playoffs with momentum. We've seen teams that go into the playoffs losing. Doesn't usually bode well. You want to be on a hot pace going in.
Yep, I agree with that 100%. They set it up perfectly. Deivi Garcia, game 1, Garrett Cole, game 2, Tanaka, game 3. So they have arguably their 3 best pitchers right now, the way Deivi Garcia has performed going in this series. And I actually, wrote an article today for Yanks Go Yard about how Gio Urshela is the most important Yankee that's going to come off the injured list ahead of Judge and ahead of Stanton because of his defensive ability as well. And this game, a great play at third base. And they're ready a double, putting him in scoring position as well. Gary Sanchez, of course, struck out. So I think that every Yankee over the last 5 games has started to show progress. Even though Sanchez just struck out, he's had better at-bats. You've seen the pitching a complete 360. The only one that's looked a little shaky still is Ottavino, who was not able to get out of that inning. But Green had a clean inning. The starting pitching looked great. And I don't expect the starting pitching to stay as dominant as they are right now. Hopefully Cole does. But you don't need them to be completely dominant. 2 to 3 runs a game will be fine over 5 or 6 innings. And right now I've seen enough to believe that they have at least 3 starters come postseason time, even with Paxton on the IL, that they'll be able to get that done.
That's been the biggest thing in the past too. You had guys like Sabathia, Happ. It was even Tanaka. It's get them through 5 innings, let the bullpen take over. And when you weren't getting the great starting pitching, or you were, the bullpen wasn't handling the job. And you're seeing on this win streak, 1 run allowed per game. That's a team effort with, first off, the starting pitching and bullpen playing great, but getting run support. The biggest thing we think with the relief pitching struggling was the fact that the Yankees weren't giving their pitchers run support. They're coming in close games, and obviously in the playoffs, they have to be better in close games. The pitching can't say, well, your offense, you didn't give us runs. I mean, look at Jacob deGrom. It's not an excuse for him to go out there and do his job. But I think now with the bullpen finally settling in, the starting pitchers not even playing well, but giving you 6 innings instead of 5, or coming out in 5 of shutout baseball, it bodes well. You talk about Happ, how he hasn't gotten wins, but he's very good starts. He wants to pitch. Every player's got to be playing as if, hey, this is my chance to prove that I belong, because the rosters are going to, you're not going to pitch a Happ in a best of 3 series unless he's going into the playoffs absolutely dominant. And you look at a guy like Cole. Let's say Cole never came out of his slump. Obviously, you're starting him in the playoffs, but it's shaky. You're like, oh, God, I hope he better do well in game 1 because they're in trouble. But now if he could go in now on a hot streak, we know how good he is in the playoffs, and it bodes well for this team. Speaking of Gio Urshela, Brendan, he's a terrible third baseman. Everyone says he's not really that good defensively. Statistics-wise.
You could take metrics and your analytics and shove it, because we all know what he does, right? He doesn't move well enough to the left to be a top tier. Please get out of here, right? That's why they shift nowadays anyway. So he's a very, very good third baseman, a very good offensive third baseman and defensive third baseman as well. Obviously, they got him back and Stanton back for this game, but in typical Yankee fashion, they can't have good news without having some bad ones. Boone said that Torres, although the quad's acting up, would be in if this was a playoff game, which I don't believe anything that comes out of Boone's mouth anymore, because on Sunday, it was just a day off for him, and now all of a sudden he has an injury. But I do believe that he is telling the truth, that if it was a playoff game, he would be in, which leads me to believe they're being cautious here because of the return of 2 of their bigger bats. You don't necessarily need to have him in this lineup, although this is a pretty big game in series, so it's got to be somewhat significant if he's missing it.
Well, I think if it gets down to it and they need a pinch hitter in a situation, he'll come in. Well, that'll be the test, right? That'll be the test. If Boone, actions speak louder than words, and we've seen Boone said some things that, haven't been on par with what you like when they said, oh, we're going to ride Sanchez, then Boone benches him. I mean, that's not the communication there. Obviously, Cashman's doing his job, backing his player, and then Boone goes, Cashman, we're going to bench him tonight, or a few days later. And it's like, well, what's going on? But I think the biggest thing is, if he comes in a pinch hit situation, then he's healthy enough to play. They're being cautious. But if it comes up where bases loaded, 2 outs, and I don't know, Tyler Wade's up.
He just got a hit though with 2 outs.
Tyler Wade?
Yep. So it's 2-1 Yankees. So wow,
okay,
he just made you eat your words.
Rewind 6 seconds. If I don't know, Sanchez comes up and bases loaded 2 outs, then another faith in him, and they, all right, let's go. If they keep Sanchez in, okay, maybe Torres is something a lot more wrong with him. We've seen quad injuries, hamstring. It's just always lingering. But there is still another good news to sandwich the good news, the bad is in the good. Judge should be back this weekend.
Yeah, and there was a video circulating today on Twitter of him ripping a home run and a couple of singles as well at the alternate training site. And I think that with them, they're just being cautious. They don't want to rush him back, even though he will be back at some point this week. Similar to Torres, I think if this was a playoff game, he'd be in the lineup. And he looks like he's moving around well. Anytime you could add Judge back, you need him, right? Obviously, you don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with Frazier, because he's played exceptionally
well. Yeah. Even in the field too, the plays he's making, yes, he'll have his mistakes. He's not a superstar in the outfield, but do they
trust him enough to put him in left field and take Gardner out? Because Gardner's been, I know he has an RBI single today, but he's been miserable this season.
Not even that. He's making errors in the field. And if you're not going to hit well, you got to be I mean, Gardner is a defensive player before he's an offensive player, and he's had success. I mean, last year he set a career high in home runs, I'm pretty sure. Yep. But if you're not going to hit this season, the same way with other guys in that lineup, like a Tachman, he's not batting well, but when he plays the field, he does a lot of good things in the field. He's a very underrated fielder. But Gardner, you can't be coming up with errors in the field if you're not going to hit. Unfortunately, he's getting hits tonight, and that's a big run on the board for the Yankees. But I think Frazier has to be in there. Do you have faith with him in left field? He's played a lot of right field with Judge out, and honestly, I didn't like him last year in right field. He was bad. He was very bad, but he's clearly, I mean, Boone's even said it. He's put in the work to get the job done. I trust him because also his bat's been good.
Yep.
And I think the fielding, is he going to make the amazing plays? No, but he's made some amazing plays, though, more often than not when you think, all right, this is going to be a tough play for him to make, and he comes up with the diving catch or the great throw or I made a diving play a couple of weeks ago in the outfield, not to catch the ball, to cut it off before going to the gap to stop from a player going from first to second. That's a big play in baseball when you could allow a guy not to get into scoring position. So do I have faith? I do have faith. And again, it's how can you tell Frazier after setting him down, not bringing him to the postseason roster when they went to the overseas again in England last year? They didn't bring him. I mean, they made him stay back. He's done everything you've asked for him and more. And how are you going to look him in the eye and say, hey, man, it's just we're going to go with Judge who's been hurt?
You have to go with Judge.
No, you have to go with Judge, yes. But, I mean, if Sanchez is playing that bad, we know what his back can do. Do you have faith starting Higashioka behind the plate? No, you don't. So Sanchez is going to play, but then it becomes, right, well, do you want Judge to not play the outfield and just hit? But then you have the problem with Stanton. I think it's really tough. Frazier being there is a good problem to have, but it's a problem nevertheless.
Listen, I'm going to go out on what's a limb here because we know Stanton.
Limb, get it?
Brittle bones, exactly. I was hoping you would catch that pun. Stanton, when he first came over here, played left field.
Yes.
Why not put him in left field? This guy was a very good outfielder.
They're not going to.
I think that if you don't trust Frazier to transition to left, correct? I don't see Gardner playing in this postseason with the way Frazier's hit and fielded since his time up here. I think it would be a mistake to have Gardner in. I think that every once in a while, maybe if it's a dominant righty and you don't want that matchup, yes, Gardner can play, but you have to. Frazier's earned it, right? Gardner's batting 180. Frazier's close to 300. He's playing much better on the field. So if you don't feel comfortable, why don't you put Stanton out there and have him DH? But I think that your outfield has to be Frazier, Hicks, and Judge with Stanton at the DH or swapping with Frazier. DJ LeMahieu got a RBI single, by the way, and I think Luke Voigt just did the same thing.
Your good point about in an ideal world, Stanton playing the field really helps because they can DH Judge or they can DH Sanchez because Higashioka is a better defensive catcher. He doesn't bat. What just happened?
Luke Voigt threw a home run.
Yeah, this guy's unreal. And he's dealing with an injury too that no one's talking about. He's got a foot problem. He clearly has a foot problem.
Stuff.
Yeah, it's not hand, foot, and mouth disease though. That's
Thankfully.
But what Luke Voigt's done, I mean, is he the top now of the home run race?
I think he might be in first with 17.
It's kind of crazy, but we should go on to the Mets because big Mets news. Steve Cohen is getting the team. It won't happen until November when they have the meetings. I don't know. See, with technology, Brendan, why do they have to wait till November? Why can't they just go, Zoom meeting right now, set up and do it? Fine. If he doesn't take over.
Because the Wilpons probably want to finish the season out.
Yeah, because they're having such a great year. And they really have. I mean, yeah, I know. It's not like
there's nothing he can do right now to fix anything.
Yeah, that's true.
The trade deadline's passed. You can't sign anybody. It's
Aaron Hicks they just went back to back.
No way.
Yeah. Yo, we have to just do our when the Yankees are on. We just got to do a show. We'll go live. Just keep it talking. But yeah, the Mets. The biggest thing now is Steve Cohen's got the money and he's willing to spend. He's a lifelong Met fan. What's one move he's got to make? I think the first thing you got to do is sign Conforto. He is not. I believe he's arbitration eligible in 2021, and then he becomes a free agent in 2022. This is a guy that struggled against lefties in his career and is having a great year against lefties. He's been their best hitter, great fielder. You got to spend the money now. It can't be Steve Cohen coming here and then doing the same thing the Wilpons did, because at that point, then it doesn't matter who's running the team if they're not going to throw the money. I know they're going to go after JT Realmuto, and Cohen has the money to go into a bidding war with the Phillies now, so that'll be really interesting. But Met fans are rejoicing in the street as if they won a World Series, and all they did was change an ownership group that's really struggled. And has it been their fault? The Mets have had chances to win. They came close a couple of years ago. Was it 2015?
Yes, I believe so.
And it's just great to see for a Mets organization. It really hasn't had a lot to cheer about in a very, very long time. And this is good for baseball. Steve Cohen is, again, looking at the teams like the groups that could have acquired. The J-Lo A-Rod didn't make sense to me. Financially, it makes sense for all this. It's about getting money for a team. But I think there were so many heads, so many players that you had football players. I'm not saying they can't be baseball fans, but they weren't fans. They were just looking at it as a moneymaker. Cohen's a lifelong Met fan. He wants to see this team win. And you just got $4 billion or whatever that he spent just sitting in your pocket, his pocket change. That's great for the Mets because he's going to go out there and at least try. Let's say Realmuto wants to sign with it. Because, again, it's about players wanting to come to the Mets. A guy like Alonso being there really helps marketing-wise. Stroman, if he comes back, maybe. But you got young guys and a young group coming up and stars, and McNeil is going to be a star. Conforto's a star. You got to keep him. J.D. Davis has been great. Can they find a way to get free agents to come? Because, again, the ownership could do so much. Yes, now it's a marketing thing where you have an owner that's going to spend money to help this team. But if players still don't want to play for the organization, and I don't blame some of them where, okay, an owner could do only so much. Look at what the Angels are doing. They go out and get Rendon. Ohtani's healthy. They get players and still nothing, which we'll get to Trout before we end the show. But for the Mets, this is a day to celebrate and drink because this is one of the best days in a long time for the New York Mets fan base.
Yeah, definitely. And Steve Cohen becomes the richest owner in the MLB. So he's got the money to spend. He said he's going to spend it. And for me, like you mentioned the name JT Realmuto, I think that becomes a very interesting addition to roster if they can get him, because I think they will go after him. They need a catcher, somebody that could play both sides of the ball. JT Realmuto is the best catcher in baseball. And I will dispute that with anybody who disagrees. He offensively, defensively, he is all around the best catcher in baseball. John Heyman on Twitter reported that the Mets were interested in him and that Cohen, as the owner, could get into a bidding war with the Phillies to get his contract done. And if you can get him, right, that offense is solidified. That is a legitimate offense. If you can get Realmuto, re-sign Conforto, the thing, of course, becomes pitching. And that's been the Achilles heel of this Mets team. Obviously, they get Syndergaard back, so you have Syndergaard and DeGrom as your 1-2. You hope that Lugo can go back to the bullpen and do what he's done. I don't know how you work around the back end of that bullpen issue. Familia looks a little bit better this year. Diaz has better numbers, but still looks inconsistent. Betances, after a year, maybe will get back into form. But I think that if they solidify that back end of the rotation and back end of the bullpen and add Realmuto, yes, it's definitely a time to be smiling if you're a Mets fan. Steve Cohen is now owning this team.
Yeah, before we get to a big series going against the Phillies, I have big news on the Islander front. Brendan Point's not playing tonight.
Really?
He is a scratch.
That's not good.
Wait, and this is the Islanders' lines for tonight. And we thought we were going to see some changes. This were their lines in warm-ups, which usually indicates what they're going to do. Ready? Lee, Barzal, Clutterbuck. Bo, Nelson, Bailey, Martin, Peugeot, Eberle, Komarov, Brassard, Dalcol.
Wow.
A lot of changes, but let's get back to the baseball. They're 21-26, 2.5 games back of the Phillies for the 7th seed. They have a 3-game set with the Phillies starting today. Porcello's the game 1 player, DeGrom's game 2, Lugo's game 3, and this could be, if the Mets could find a way to sweep this series, they at least have to win. They at least have to win 2 out of 3, but it really should be that they have to find a way to sweep. That would be great for this Mets team.
I mean, despite them being what feels like 21-26 feels like they're completely out of it, they're not. And they really do control their own destiny. The Phillies have not done anything. They're 23-23. And the way that the pitching matchup stacks up, you have a veteran in Rick Porcello, who he's done a lot of good things. He's won a Cy Young, and you have to hope that he could turn the table. Obviously, his last start wasn't good, but the 2 before that were. And I think that you have Jacob deGrom in game 2, which is a must-win. I know that they struggle to score runs for him, struggle to win his starts. That is one of the games where if you're going to win a game for Jacob deGrom, that is the game you have to do it. And Seth Lugo, who's made the transition back to starter, has been good. He's a very good pitcher. So they got the 3 guys that you would think they want pitching in this series going. And like you said, 2 out of 3 is a must. If you can sweep, you have to. Because if they sweep this series, you're looking at a team that's in the playoff picture now.
Yeah, imagine the Mets making the playoffs and Steve Cohen. I don't know if Met fans are going to know what to do with themselves. Right now, it's 0-0, bottom of the second, 1 out, guy in first for the Phillies. But J.D. Davis made a sick barehanded play at third base. And when things go well for a team, for players, when you see that Steve Cohen's buying the Mets, and obviously fans are really excited about that, what does that do for the players? That's just a confidence boost. That they know what's going on. They're not just players. They know exactly that they have a chance now to not only go out and get players, but players have to step up because it's a new start. Steve Cohen comes in and he can call the shots. And if, let's say he doesn't like J.D. Davis, right? Or he doesn't know J.D. Cohen watches the Mets religiously where he knows the players, not personally on a personal level, but he knows what they bring. Watching a guy like J.D. Davis make that play at third base may put in the back of his mind as a first impression. Oh, we don't have to go out there and get a third baseman. We have J.D. Davis. Beautiful play, game 1. That's all you've seen obviously he's not the owner yet. But he's now going to have a closer look. He won the bid. He's going to have a closer look at these players and see what they do from now until the end. Again, It's a boost of confidence. And I think for the Mets, they should sweep. That's the goal. And you look at the records for all these pitchers, 1-4, DeGrom 4-1, Lugo 2-3. Throw those all away. Besides Porcello, who's really struggled, got a 1.67 ERA for DeGrom and a 2.63 ERA for Lugo. Those 2 pitchers have to find a way to get wins, and the offense has to come. But they could beat the Phillies and sweep them. Yes, they're in the playoff picture, but that's a vote of confidence after the news we got today, and that should be really good for Met fans.
Yeah, we talked about the Dodgers sitting in that 1 seed, and if the Mets do sneak in and wind up playing them, right? Not even just the Dodgers. Who wants to play the Mets? Their offense
Nobody.
Is very good, right? And you have DeGrom starting game 1. So odds are whoever DeGrom faces, he's going to win that game or give the Mets a chance to win that game. And the thing is, if you go up 1-0 in a best of 3, all cards are off the table now. And I don't think anybody wants to see the Mets sneak in because of Jacob deGrom and that offense. So if they get in, they're going to give themselves a chance to make a mini run here. I really hope that they do because it's been an up and down season. It's been with the whole Yoenis Cespedes disaster. Pete Alonso hasn't fully clicked this season either. And, once you start the playoffs, all bets are off. And I think that if they manage to sneak in and have a good series here and they could ride a little hot streak, it's a dangerous team.
It's definitely a dangerous team. They lose Cespedes, but he wasn't playing well anyway. He didn't seem like he was really interested in the season regardless. But again, all you got to do is get into the dance. And it's what you do at the dance. If you show off at the dance and you do well, you might walk away with an award. But I mean, like I said, for this Mets team, it's just a good day. And if they could find a way, first off, it starts by winning Porcello's game.
Yep.
If they could win Porcello's game, that's a major confidence boost because Porcello's been so bad. 5 earned runs versus Baltimore his last start. 2 before that, 11 innings pitched, only 4 earned runs. So if he could find a way to shut down this Phillies offense and the Mets win this game, you have confidence going to DeGrom that they're at least going to take 2 out of 3 in this series and maybe more with Lugo. We got 7 minutes, Brendan. I have a hot take for you in baseball, and Let's do it because, we got Islanders hockey at the top of the hour. Boychuk and Noah Dobson are on the ice for warmups. Ross Johnson's a scratch. This seems like it's going to be a whole new lineup and rotation for the Islanders. I'm very excited because, you don't want to see anyone get hurt. And Point played last game, which means that he wasn't.
John Cooper said what it is.
What is it?
He said he's managing his injury, which means he knows that even if they lose this game, they still have 2 games to work with. Fair. So he's being cautious because he's rightfully so. He has all the confidence in the world.
Yeah, I was going to say. But still, Islanders, they just gave you a chance at a win on a silver platter. Yes, Point's not the only player on this team. We've seen that. He's very, very good, but they're a very good team. But hot take for the next 7 minutes, Brendan. The Los Angeles Angels. When will the Angels be good? They'll be good the day they trade Mike Trout. And let's dive into why. Career 290, we know how good Trout is. It's not even a joke. He's the best player in baseball year in and year out. When he's age 40, I think he'll still be dominating the league. The problem is the Angels have so much money invested in him that they don't spend money on other players. They go out and get Rendon, a key bat that hopefully would provide, protection for Trout. They don't have to walk as much. Ohtani was coming back. Yeah, Fletcher playing well. But the Angels, they're 20-28 this season. That's with Rendon and a healthy Ohtani, but Ohtani forgot how to pitch. Trout's in his second year of a 12-year, $430 million deal. And this is where it gets interesting. Team this year is a 239 team batting average this season. Last season was 247. So with Rendon, with a healthy Ohtani, the batting average has gone down. Look at the Dodgers, pitching-wise. 3.39 pitchers ERA. Astros at 3.66. Pitching ERA, Rays 3.67. The pitching for the Angels has been terrible. 5.64 ERA among starters, 4.64 bullpen. This team will not be good unless they trade Trout because they have no farm system and they need to trade for some pitching because it doesn't matter. You could have all the offense in the world. We just talked about it with the Dodgers. The thing that the Dodgers have is they have pitching as well and they have the hitting, which is why they're a team that's contending. If the Angels can get a 1, 2, 3 great starting rotation, that'd be great, but the only way they're going to do that is if they trade Trout and get prospects or a farm system. But, you make the trade. Let's say they do trade Trout, right? You're not only going to get the prospects. You can get a number 3 starter. You might even be able to get a number 2 starter from a team. Everyone wants a Trout. Obviously, the money you're willing to pay. But with him on the team, they don't have the money and the resources to be competitive, and they won't be until he's gone.
Well, I agree with that. I think that the Angels will do everything in their power to avoid that. The Angels will try to trade other pieces, make a couple more free agent signings. Obviously, Pujols' contract will come off the books in a little bit. They have other ways that they might try to get younger and get better pieces around him. But at the same time, when you have somebody like Trout, like we've seen this before, we've seen in other sports where somebody has a big name and it's coming to that time where, listen, they're not going to do it for you. Obviously, your team hasn't gotten over the hump and you got to move him. And I think the MLB would be in love if they traded him to an East Coast team, right? And I'm not saying the Yankees, but think about just for example, right? The Red Sox are now in a mini rebuild. If they've found a way to trade for Trout, just the amount of ratings that go through the roof, how much more noticeable he becomes. Because right now he's on the West Coast. The majority of the teams aren't in that time zone, and it becomes a different issue. People we're not going to stay up until 10 o'clock to watch the Angels play because they're terrible, right? Yeah. They're not good. I'm not going to tune into that game. And hasn't won a playoff game, right? Is that accurate, or he's won one?
He won I want to say a wild card game, but I'm not sure. He hasn't done it. It doesn't matter.
He hasn't been in the big spotlight when everyone's going to watch him. And you want your best player, and there's no doubt in the world that Mike Trout is the best baseball player in the world, that you want him in that spotlight. And he has not been there, and the Angels haven't given him that chance. And it's not him because he does everything you can ask him more every single year. He took a paternity leave this year. He's still second in the league in home runs now to Luke Voit. So, this guy needs help. And in baseball, it's the one sport where no matter how good your best player is, it's never going to be good enough, right? Basketball, you have one guy, he could do it. In hockey, even a hot goalie can do it. Football, maybe not as well, but you could have one good player that can change the course. In baseball, Mike Trout is the best player, and he can't do it all. You need somebody that could pitch. And you mentioned Ohtani. Ohtani, thankfully the Yankees didn't sign him because just a disaster what's happened to him with the injury rate and all that. But they can't bank on somebody, by the way, that's a two-way player. Like, he never picked a position. I thought originally he should have picked a position. And outside of that, they have no pitching. So the Angels need to figure it out quick.
Yeah, Trout will join a list. If he stays with the Angels, he'll join a list of one of the best players to play and never win. And it's sad because, like, if he was on the Yankees, I'm not saying that's always a possibility with the money the Yankees have, that he could join the Yankees somehow. But the problem is that he's committed to winning in LA. While the weather is definitely beautiful, it's probably awesome to live out there. I've been to that stadium, very nice place. I mean, he pretty much said he wants to be an Angel for the rest of his career. And yes, money probably played a factor, but I think that first off, if you're going to trade him, it's got to be sooner than later because he's in his prime right now. And will he be the best player in baseball probably by the end of his year contract? No, he'll still be very, very good, but you're going to get the most out of him if you trade him right now. And they won't. That's my hot take, that they should trade him, but they won't because, again, they invested the money in him as well, and they really want to win with him or not. I think they'd rather win with him than not win at all at this point because it's Mike Trout, face of baseball, but he's got to move if he's going to want to win, and the team's going to have to move him if they want to win, and that's really the moral of the story there.
I completely agree with what you're saying, and we got a minute left, so as you're not going to hear this often, but good luck. I hope that the Islanders don't make you miserable tonight. And
I'm already miserable, Brendan. I don't feel good.
I know, but win always boosts the morale, and it should be a good one tonight.
I can't imagine what a loss is going to do to me.
Well, it'll put you out of your misery soon. It's like being a nice guy to a dog that's sick. But the Islanders are in every position right now to make this a 6-game series at least, right? Braden points out they're shuffling their lines. Trotz's head is working like a magic man, and you got to think that if they hold the Tampa Bay Lightning to 2 goals tonight, they're winning this game. I think that the Islanders are scoring 3. That's going to be my prediction.
So your prediction's 3-2 or empty netter?
I'm predicting that the Lightning are winning 4-3.
Oh.
Yeah. I think that the only way the Islanders win is if they hold them to 2 goals. But the way that everyone's like, points out, I just see Kucherov going off, and I don't know.
Again, that's why Tampa's the better team. They could lose if the Islanders lost to Barzal. They're done.
Yep.
It's gonna be really hard, but we'll see what happens. Puck drop is in a couple of minutes, so I'm gonna run downstairs, eat some dinner real quick, and watch this game. Brendan, you enjoy the Yankees' domination of the Blue Jays, hopefully, and we'll see you guys next week. I think you're gonna love next week's episode. We're not gonna give too much away, but definitely one you're gonna probably want to tune in. Not even probably, you're gonna want to tune in for it. So we'll see you guys next week.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.